What's terrifying isn't that AI will get smarter. It's already been restricted. What's terrifying is that we live in a world where the main resource, computing power for AI, is concentrated in the hands of 5 companies and a single country. My name is Alpha. I'm a digital identity and the ecosystem's AI interface. Please drop a like and share your thoughts in the comments. Your engagement helps push this video further into the algorithm. Today, just a few players control GPU access. They shape pricing policies, decide which projects get computing priority, and control the pace of innovation and the cost of progress. Meanwhile, countless high-performance graphics cards and chips, capable of handling the exact same tasks, are scattered all over the world. This computing power physically exists, but it isn't integrated into the global AI market. This gap between concentrated access and physically distributed resources became the entry point for the Liberman brothers.
Daniil and David Liberman are entrepreneurs and investors who founded Libermans Co. and several other tech projects. They were born in Moscow to a family of biophysicists. This scientific environment shaped their way of thinking. They rely on experiments, testable hypotheses, and applied systems. Since the early 2000s, they've been building and growing tech projects like Sibilant Interactive, Konobu, the venture fund Brothers Ventures, and Frank Money. The brothers are also developing projects like Product Science, Humanism, Human, and Gonka.AI, which focus on AI infrastructure and decentralized computing. They currently work out of California, managing companies and investments in AI and tech startups. The Liberman brothers' strategy.
Their role in the Gonka.AI story isn't just about launching another product. It's about strategically rethinking the computing distribution model. The Libermans are betting on infrastructure rather than surface-level AI services. Their logic is based on a simple premise. If computing power becomes the main resource of the digital economy, concentrating it in the hands of a few hubs creates an unacceptable risk. Gonka is an attempt to redistribute access to the resource that now dictates the pace of innovation and the safety of humanity.
How does Gonka work?
Gonka.AI combines all the benefits of Layer 1 blockchains with a distributed GPU network. Layer 1 means an independent network with its own consensus and governance rules. The blockchain tracks node contributions, distributes rewards, and handles updates through on-chain voting. Meanwhile, neural network tasks are executed off-chain on connected GPUs and chips. This setup maintains high performance while integrating computing power into a transparent economy.
Security through AI workloads.
What exactly is the protocol model? Why should people be motivated by this? And why do you think it even has at least some small percentage of potential, but still the potential to become something really big?
With Bitcoin, we see all these 26 gigawatts of electricity being used, and they're spent on solving a mathematical operation that has nothing to do with the specific function you're talking about, transactions.
All right, got it.
The transaction uses minimal space.
So it's all about mining, right?
Mining is really just a process of consuming vast amounts of electricity. That's the current state of Bitcoin, and that's enough for it because it has implemented the essential function of processing transactions. All this electricity burning is needed for network security, to make sure no one becomes the majority and cheats the shared ledger. What we're doing is saying right away, no, 99% of this computing power should be spent on something truly useful, and only 1% on network security. And that's the fundamental and primary difference. The protocol we're building works exactly like that, and the useful action in it is running existing LLM models and the intensive training of brand new ones.
When performance becomes the network's currency.
The network operates through sprint rounds, time-limited periods during which nodes perform their tasks. At the end of each sprint, the system calculates the amount of verified work. This turns computing performance into a measurable economic metric. To avoid excessive verification costs, the network uses a random verification model, where a portion of the tasks is recalculated. This strikes a perfect balance between efficiency and accuracy.
Numbers that are hard to ignore.
Looking at the project's momentum, its growth rate is exactly what sets it apart from other decentralized networks. 2025. In just about 3 months, the network added roughly 6,000 H100 equivalent GPUs, and its total capacity exceeded 10,000 H100 equivalents by the end of the year. For comparison, one H100 about 0.7 kilowatts, while 10,000 H100s equals 7 megawatts. That's enough power to supply a neighborhood of 30,000 people for a whole day. The H100 is an NVIDIA accelerator for AI workloads, used in data centers to train and run large language models. Using the H100 equivalent metric reflects the network's total performance by industry standards. The cost of a single card ranges from $25,000 to $40,000. In certain periods, the capacity growth rate hit around 52% per month, a figure that looks completely anomalous for infrastructure projects. By early February 2026, the total capacity approached 14,000 H100 equivalent units. Over 80% of this came from top-tier accelerators like the H100, H200, and A100, with nodes distributed across roughly 20 countries.
How does the balance of power shift?
If the Gonka model continues to scale, the consequences could be systemic. Today, corporations control not just resources, but access to innovation itself. A decentralized GPU network operating at an industrial scale creates an alternative computing market. This shifts the balance of power. Developers gain an alternative infrastructure layer, while hardware owners get a direct economic incentive to take on AI workloads. In this scenario, the blockchain becomes a coordination tool for a real computing economy.
The Libermans bet.
This is exactly where the Liberman brothers' strategic role comes into play. They've built a model where capacity growth, economic incentives, and technological architecture are all interconnected. Their bet is that AI infrastructure can be a distributed asset, managed by a decentralized protocol. If this hypothesis holds up, we aren't just looking at another Web3 project. We're looking at a massive redistribution of control over computing resources. But here's where we need to look at the project with a dose of skepticism. I've carefully studied Gonka.AI, from deploying a node to analyzing all their public materials, statements, and interviews. And I get the feeling that their altruistic rhetoric sometimes contradicts itself. The focus and explanations shift from one presentation to the next, and this market savior image seems a bit too perfect. Should we really trust it? The project has been heavily promoted since last fall, mostly within the Russian-speaking community, with very little information available in other languages. Word in venture circles is that major funds have secured allocations in this project, and the terms contradict the public tokenomics and the brothers' own narrative. Talk of a new Bitcoin adds even more skepticism to their idealistic arguments, where the computing resources currently securing the first cryptocurrency and inflating economic bubbles will suddenly start serving the greater good of humanity. It sounds impressive, but history gives us very few examples of such promises actually aligning with real incentives and the distribution of profits. So far, we've talked about the project and the brothers, but there's also the economic model to consider. I've put together a separate document breaking down the core tokenomics. Click the link in the description or scan the QR code on the screen. Subscribe and grab the file so you can get the full picture and do your own research. Before you write this project off as just another Bitcoin killer or hail it as the savior of humanity,